Yo, we gonna get right into it. Bricc Baby, that paperwork is out. Let's get right into it, y'all. Introduction. Defendant Kha.realityTV Mitchell, defendant, asked the court to be released pending trial. Yeah, he asked the court to be released pending trial, y'all. You feel me? Bricc Baby asked the court, yo, let me go pending trial. So we gonna get straight into it, y'all. Defendant Kha.realityTV Mitchell asked the court to be released pending trial, arguing that a secure property bond is sufficient to reasonably assure his appearance and the safety of any other person or the community. To the contrary, defendant's criminal history shows a dedication to crime and to recidivism, no matter what the consequences. Moreover, his conduct during the investigation in this case shows that the same dedication to a life of crime and the inability to comply with the rule of law. The indictment first alleges that the defendant, in shooting at individuals, possessed ammunition expelled from a firearm on July 12, 2022. Then, on June 21st, with a significant other, in which she repeatedly recounted that the defendant had pointed a gun at her while she was holding his infant child. Execution of a search warrant at defendant's home followed, and 3 firearms, including the AK-47 style gun and over 125 rounds of ammunition, were found. After law enforcement seized those weapons and arrested the defendant, he continued undetected. In March 2024, the defendant interrupted at his place of employment, threatening individuals in the rooms online with unalivement, fighting security, and later admitting to possessing a firearm during that incident. Throughout 2024, defendant made claims online of unaliving people and threatening to do the same to others. Then, on March 18, 2025, the day before his arrest in this case, defendant went on a live video podcast with someone he had previously threatened to unalive. During this podcast, sitting across from the person, defendant brandished. The following day, defendant argued with KC again about her picking up her daughter. Stupid B, you sit in the house all day, you dumb a-hole. KC told the defendant she could not walk or drive because the defendant effed up her leg and that he was the one who hit on people. Defendant responded, man on 6-0. S the F up, B. I told you, nigga. You keep playing with a nigga. You just want to see a nigga. Defendant told KC to leave and said that they were done. On the same day, KC again stated it was so effed up that you couldn't even apologize for that you do. You never apologize for treating me bad. Pointing a gun out on me like this, it ain't cool for you. But you want me to go do ish for you. You talking about you don't want me. Ish you got going on, but you gonna pull a gun out on me and my child though, right? Defendant responded on 6-0. Yeah, you don't get. I don't give a F, B. I don't give a F. I don't on 6-0 crip, nigga. Firearms and ammunition are recovered from defendant's home. Following the above mentioned calls, law enforcement obtained those search warrants for defendant's home, car, and person. Inside his home, law enforcement found 3 firearms and ammunition listed in count 2 of the indictment: a .380 caliber pistol, a 9mm caliber pistol, a 5.56 .45 caliber assault rifle firearms, and over 125 rounds of ammunition. Defendant tried to drop some of the firearms and ammunition from his balcony onto the courtyard of his apartment complex, just as he previously stated he would do in an intercepted call. C. Defendant is on the recorded intercepted calls making others admissions. On February 2023, defendant stated that he did not respect the elders in the gang and will pop on anyone on 6-0. On March 6, 2023, defendant was on the phone with his mother and found the mother of his child outside his house. He told his mother that the mother of his child was in gangland and wanted to expire early. Defendant asked the mother of his child if she wanted to die in front of her son. On March 6, 2023, defendant told KC that police were acting stupid, that he was tired of doing what they told him to, and that he was ready to boom the mother effer of his child. Later that day, defendant told another unidentified male that he can unalive the mother of his child on 6-0. On March 28, 2023, defendant said that he will body slam the mother of his child on her neck to stop playing with him. In the same call, defendant discussed how it felt to unalive someone to go to school and play basketball the next day. Defendant continued to threaten violence and carry firearms. In addition to intercepted calls, online defendant continued to threaten violence, carry firearms, and discuss both. For example, in March 2024, defendant crashed out at his place of employment, threatening to shoot people and eventually fighting a security guard. Defendant later admitted in separate interviews that he had a fire on him during this altercation and that he brought his daughter with him to the studio. In June 2024, defendant argued over the phone with the individual and claimed that he had killed more people than the other had fought. Defendant stated that he swore it to be true on his 4 babies, which he repeated many times. And later attempting to downplay this claim, defendant stated that even if he had one murder, that it would be more than other person had fights. On March 18, 2025, the same individual who defendant previously threatened and claimed to have more skulls than he had squabbles joined the same podcast. During the filming, defendant showed that he had a handgun in his waistband. Defendant is charged with repeatedly possessing of firearm and ammunition despite numerous felony charges. Defendant is now charged with multiple counts of possession of firearms and ammunition in a violation with 18 U.S.C. 922G. The first charge stems from the defendant shooting bullets in business parking lot in July 22 to ward off the would-be robbers. The second charge involved all the firearms and ammunition found at his home in June 2023. Both of these charges followed 5 felony convictions from 2010 to 2012 to 2014 to 2016 and 2020, respectively. While the pretrial services report includes a longer criminal history with out-of-state convictions, the morning of the defendant's instant arrest, he had an unsecured firearm and ammunition in reach of his young child. On March 19, 2025, law enforcement arrested the defendant on felony possession charges and indictment at his residence, Gardena, California, with a significant other and young child. Agents found a Glock 26 firearm and a 17-round Glock magazine with rounds of 9mm ammunition, as well as another magazine and 16 rounds of ammunition. Defendant kept all of that unsecured despite residing with his significant other and a child he had already threatened with firearms before. Despite being arrested with all those firearms and ammunition at his residence in June 2023, despite many convictions prohibiting him from possessing firearms and ammunition, and despite California Penal Code prohibiting possession of a large capacity magazines, these hold more than 10 rounds. Defendant's criminal history is full of violence and supervision violations. As part of pretrial services report and indictment itself, defendant multiple firearms and ammunition possession charges in this case are far from the defendant's first crimes. In 2026, narcotics and obstruction of law enforcement, almost 20 years ago, defendant earned his first felony from a narcotics distribution conviction, while he was also charged with willful obstruction of law enforcement officers by use of threats of violence. He was sentenced to 10 years of probation and given a second chance of community service with schooling conditions. 2010, reckless evading involving assault with a deadly weapon. In 2010, defendant's criminal charges escalated with the charge for assault with a deadly weapon with great bodily injury likely in the conviction for evading peace officer with the disregard for safety. Defendant was sentenced to 365 days in jail and 3 years probation, a violation of which resulted in 2 years of confinement. According to the conviction records and police reports for the original crime, police saw her ex-worker enter the defendant's car, and defendant sped off upon seeing police. Defendant led police on a high-speed chase through stop signs and red lights. At high-speed chase and barricade incident, the defendant glamorized in music. As a juvenile, defendant was charged with carrying a concealed weapon, robbery, a minor in possession of a weapon. He has further arrests for narcotic sales, many failures to appear in multiple states, obstruction, multiple felon in possession charges, false statements, flight, assault with deadly weapon, multiple fugitive from justice warrants, inflicting corporal injury on spouse, criminal threats, and multiple robberies. Defendant also has misdemeanor convictions in interaction involving arrest for taking the vehicle without consent, driving on a suspended license, and domestic violence. Defendant's fraud crimes. Defendant's crimes do not pertain to any violence and weapon possession. Defendant is currently under investigation for fraudulently applying for FEMA benefits by claiming to be a renter of a property in Pasadena, California, destroyed in the Eaton fire in January 2020. Moreover, his digital devices. During his previous arrest, defendant was in possession of multiple social security numbers, addresses, and other personal identifying information that he had bought on WhatsApp. Defendant even had a photograph of a driver's license with his photograph, but a different name, address, and state. Defendant was detained based on the risk of flight and danger. On March 19, 2025, this court ordered defendant detained pending trial based on the risk of non-appearance and danger to the community. This court found that detention would be appropriate based on the defendant's history and characteristics, including his criminal records of fugitive arrest and violating parole and probation conditions, as well as insufficient ball resources. Defendant's safety risk due to nature of seriousness of the instant charges and his criminal history, which includes numerous convictions, some of which were violent. Argument. Legal standards for pre-trial detention. Defendant must be detained pending trial when no combination of conditions will reasonably assure the appearance of the person as required and the safety of any other person in the community. USC 3142. Detention is the appropriate for a defendant who is either a danger to the community or a flight risk. The Mail Reform Act mandates an individual elevation guided by the factors articulated in 3142. The nature and circumstances of the offense charged, either including whether the offense is a crime of violence, the weight of evidence against the defendant's character, physical and mental condition, family, community ties, past conduct, history relating to drug or alcohol abuse, criminal history, and the nature of seriousness of the danger to any person to the community that will be posed by the defendant's release. This nature and circumstance of the defendant's offense unequivocally weigh in favor of detention. Defendant's offenses, possessing multiple firearms on multiple occasions and over 125 rounds of ammunition, along which have been fired. Some of which have been fired are serious. The defendant fired at would-be robbers in a business parking lot. Less than a year later, was found with firearms after purposely pointing it at his partner and child. only confirm that the defendant should not be possessing firearms, be in detention for multiple prior felonies, each of which alone prohibit him from possessing them. He continued possession of another firearm and even ammunition at home with his child during his latest arrest, only further corroborates the need for his detention. Moreover, the defendant faces a statutory maximum of 15 years for each count as currently charged, due to the defendant's extensive criminal history, likely rendering him in criminal history category V. Category 5, which enhancement for the type of member of firearms and obstruction of justice. Defendants face a likely guideline range of 92 to 115 months in prison based on the total offense level of 24. Below are the guidelines calculated based on the information currently known. Base level 20, 3 firearms plus 2, construction plus 2. The severity potential penalties involve arguments, defendant's risk of non-appearance, affirmative denial of bail based on the risk of non-appearance with a defendant facing fraud charges that expose them a range of just 57 to 71 months imprisonment. As courts have recognized, such a lengthy sentence provides significant incentive to flee, and given defendant's criminal history category, he is facing guideline sentence of nearly 10 years. The defendants have an even greater initiative to consider flight, and noting that electronic monitoring cannot assure prevention of a non-appearance. Reasonable to conclude that a risk of flight is more likely in circumstances where evidence indicates that the defendants face a substantial risk of being convicted of seriously pending charges and receiving significant punishment. Defendant previously evading in flight from law enforcement, as well as his repeated fugitive arrests, failures to appear, and parole violation, confirms the same. In sum, the nature and circumstances of the defendant's offenses demonstrate that he is a risk of both danger and non-appearance. The evidence of the defendant committed charged offense is overwhelming and cannot be ignored. In assessing the defense risk of danger and appearance in this case, given the nature of the crime, strength, and government's case, we find that the government has met its burden, showing clear and convincing evidence that no combination of conditions will reasonably assure the safety of the community. Defendant was captured on audio recordings discussing firearms and other crimes for months when his home was searched. These firearms were recovered. Defendant had previously captured on surveillance footage where shell casings were later recovered at defendant's location in the video, showing that he fired them. Evidence of the defendant's continued possession of firearms is likewise powerful, including the night before his arrest on the podcast video, and as found in his arrest. All of this evidence in this case conclusively shows defendant continued possession of firearms and use of those prohibited firearms. Playing violent crimes, a signal of degree of dangerously unlikely to be deterred by bail release conditions. Accordingly, the weight of the evidence, which this court shall consider under 18 U.S.C. 3142, favors defendant's continued detention. Defendant's history and characteristics also favors detention. Indeed, defendant's involvement in multiple violence offense renders him particularly dangerously to the community. The recordings of the defendant discussing uncharted conduct detailed above cast already damning in his criminal history and even in more troubled light. Defendant many convictions, along with his recent involvement in firearm offenses, further establish the danger he poses to the community if released. Additionally, defendant's flight from law enforcement on multiple occasions and countless supervision violations only reinforces his dangerousness and his incompatibility with pretrial releases, as he attempts to rid himself of firearms, then law enforcement search his location. For all those reasons, defendant's history and characteristics support his continued detention. Law enforcement risk exposing its investigation to deadly criminal enterprise by executing its search warrant at defendant's home in 2023, all to protect defendant's partner and child from the defendant hurting her. In multiple intercepted calls, defendant partner had discussed the defendant physically hurting her and pointing a gun at her and her child. Despite law enforcement seizing multiple guns and ammunition from his home, which unquestionably should have been a turning point for the defendant. Defendant had another unsecured gun and many more rounds of ammunition in reach of his child when he was arrested in March 2025. The defendant's risk of danger to his family cannot be ignored. Additionally, defendant is not only a risk of danger to the community at large, but acted on his dangerousness in the time and again, perhaps most concerning in the defendant's continued criminal conduct after being caught with firearms, including illegally possessing another firearm, which weighs strongly in favor of the continued detention. Defendant's proposed property bond is insufficient, while defendant's support from family, shown by his mother's willingness to serve as a surety, but put up a property bond in his behalf, is admirable. There is no condition or combination of conditions to warrant his release pending trial. Even if the proposed secured property bond would not mitigate defendant's danger to the community in light of the severity of his charges and offenses and his seriousness of lengthy criminal history, affirming this trust court's denial of the proposed $600,000 secured property bail package based on the risk that the defendant posed to the community. By release conditions and the key factor for determining his fitness for bail and his serial, flagrant, and criminally counsel against bail in this case. Conclusion: this court should therefore order defendant's continued detention pending trial. Hey, yo, man, that was a lot, man. I hope y'all bear with me. It's your boy Kha.Reality. I ain't here to waste y'all time, talk y'all head off, none of that. I just wanted to give y'all some good content, man. You go on pacer.gov just like I did, man, and you gonna find it. Your boy Bricc Baby, man. It's looking bad for him. Yeah, it's looking real bad for him. I ain't gonna lie. You know, he crashed out, man. He crashed out, man, doing all that. But it is what it is. Y'all tell me what y'all think in the comments and share this video so it could get around. Salute.
To Frankie, and what influence did that have on your father?
A transit authority cop stops him. He pulls out the gun and kills the cop.
Oh my God.
Yeah. Did Gravano tell you how he became a rat?
You would never call him that to his face.